Hey, what's going on? And guys, today we've got the brand new real grade kit here from Bandai, the Wing Zero TV version of that. It's not actually part of the title, the TV version, but it's the Wing Gundam Zero, as we saw in the anime series anyway. This is, I think, maybe my favorite version of the Wing Gundam, to be honest. I've always had a fondness for this version of the Wing Gundam's design, and so needless to say, I'm very much looking forward to building this kit. Let's go ahead and get into it for today's video. So let's take a quick look around the box here before we dive into the contents. As you can see here on the front, pretty typical with one exception. We have the close-up CGI render of the Gundam's face over here on this side, and the full render over here. But because this is a transforming suit, you also have an image of the transformed bird mode there in the background, which is pretty cool. And as you can see for the artwork, it does feature all the markings and everything on there as well. The lighting effects look cool, so it looks really nice here on the front. And this is in the newer international box release style, where we have it horizontal here on this side. This is number 43 in the line. And on the other side, we have a vertical box art on this end of the box, which is kind of interesting. Not really sure why they're choosing to do that, but hey, it's kind of cool, interesting. What do you guys think about that? You like it? You don't like it? You don't care? Anyway, here on the bottom, we've got that image right there again. And as you can see, for this box, this being the international release, it features English and let's see, I believe that would be French and Spanish on here. No Japanese, not even on the front. So typically, like, we'd have the name is big in English, and then you have Japanese below it, but no Japanese here anywhere on the box, it would seem. Honestly, kind of seems like a waste to print two different boxes. Print one box that has Japanese and English for the Japanese release, and then print one that has no Japanese, but it has English, French, and Spanish for the international release. I mean, that's nice, I guess. And as you can see here around on the bottom of the box, I just kind of skimmed over it there while I was ranting, but a lot of detail images showing the kit and the articulation, the weapons, and the gimmicks, and exactly how it looks in the unpainted state right there, just straight out of the box. As always, for the real grade line, it looks really, really nice. Here on the top of the box, some more images of the kit in some action poses, the iconic shooting pose, and then another look at the back side of the kit. I really like how the binders are like quite large there on the back for the wings, so those are going to look really nice. Let's go ahead and pop it open and check out everything inside here. Of course, we got some stickers as per usual for an RG, and a pretty average size sheet compared to other RG kit releases, I think, lately, featuring all of our markings here in gray, red, and white. And then we've got our mirror finish markings over here. A lot of those go on the inner frame, and then of course you have ones for the cameras and the eyes there as well, in like a mirror finish green. That all looks really good. We do have a paper in here advertising about the Gunpla Builders Note, official Gunpla fan community here. So there's a QR code if you guys want to scan that. I believe there's a QR code on the outside of the box. We may have seen that there as well. We can scan that, and yeah, you can build, share, connect, see more, build better, boost your creativity with AI backgrounds for your Gunpla, do all that stuff there in the app. I haven't checked it out yet, but you guys can check that out. It also says boost your creativity in two ways: just snap a photo, build it, snap it, scene it, like I said, with the AI background, or snap a photo and put your Gunpla on the package. So pretty cool. I've seen some people sharing images of this, and it's kind of cool. Yeah, is that something you guys have used? What do you think about it? Are you interested in that? Do you like it, not like it? Let me know in the comments. And here we have our instruction manual. So again, as usual, it's just got the front close-up image there. On the back side is going to be our decal guide showing where all the decals go. The paint guide is also down here at the bottom. And again, everything is in English, French, and Spanish. And then on the inside here is going to be our parts list. The first of our information sections here, as usual for the real grade line, we're going to have usually 3 sections in the manual giving information about the mobile suit, the weapons, and some of the gimmicks or something like that. So this is the first one. It's got some more images, got some text, and again, it's in the 3 languages there. And then we get into the builds. So a couple pages on, we should see another one of those information sections in here. There we go. This one's all about the weapons. So it's got a lot of nice information about those: the shield, the machine guns in the chest, the beam sabers, and of course the twin buster rifle. And that might be it. We might not have another section, because then it goes over the building of the weapons and the shield, and then the transformation here. And I have seen how the legs in particular are quite complex, how they transform, and it does look pretty cool, I have to say. So I'm looking forward to trying that out, as well as the gimmick of the boosters in the backpack, how those open up there as well. It does look pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to getting this kit built so I can try out those gimmicks. But anyway, let's get into the runners here with SB13 for our beam saber effect parts. Standard 144 scale beam saber parts here, but this time in a really nice clear green. Runners A1 and A2 going to be our multicolor runners here, which you can see their overlap is this section right here, with runner A1 having some yellow parts across the bottom, clear green over here on this side, blue and red. A2 being a copy of this section with the addition of a silver part down there for in the chest. Runner B we have 2 of for the majority of our white armor pieces. This is in a very slightly off-white color. And then we we have runners C1 and C2, and runner C1 is in that same off-white, but as you can see, runner C2 is definitely in a light gray color, and you can just kind of see the difference that we're gonna have for that typical RG two-tone white armor in this case. So we'll have some of these light gray pieces there for our kind of second tone. And then after that, it's all inner frame. And as you'll notice, one thing that is missing from this kit is the typical real grade pre-molded inner frame runner, usually the B runner. And as we've seen in recent years, that has kind of shrunken to be fewer and fewer. It's not the full frame anymore. It's just like a couple of small sections, but in this case, there's none at all. So here, runner D, we have 2 of, and as you can see, there's like wing parts on there, and then a bunch more of the inner frame parts in this sort of metallic dark brown color. Same thing here for runner E as well, some more inner frame parts in that same color. But then runners F1 and F2 are in a little bit darker color. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's in a darker, still kind of a brownish color. That's like a dark brownish gray. Runners F1 and F2 are going to be copied for like this main section here, with runner F1 having a couple of additional parts over here on this side, and runner F2 having a couple of additional parts over here on this side for the Buster rifles, it looks like. So that's it for all the parts. Let's go ahead and get it built up and check it out. And here's how it's going to look when it's all built up. That looks awesome. If you guys missed the live stream build of this, you can go back and check that out. But it was a lot of fun putting this kit together. It goes together like any kind of modern RG kit, so there wasn't anything like necessarily too surprising. Well, I guess I should take that back, because there was a couple of parts that I knew going into this build that were going to be a little bit more complicated, in the legs in particular because of the transformation, and then also in the backpack and the thrusters. But actually, when it came time to building those, I was a little bit surprised at how simple it was putting those sections together. It was complex in a way, but it was still very smooth, very simple to go through those parts of the build, and didn't like grind the building process to a halt because I suddenly had these parts that was like very weird trying to figure out how to put it together. It was really easy, and it seems like they're going to end up working really nicely as well, which we'll take a look at here in a second. But first, let's start off by taking a look at our included accessories. So first off, let's talk our hand options. We've got these closed fists there on the kit at the moment there, as you can see. We got one open hand here for the left side only, so this could be for just like an open expressive hand, or as a rifle support hand when you have the Buster rifles connected together. We'll see that here in just a second. But for holding those, then we do also have our 2 holding hands here for the left and the right side to round out our hand options. So some nice options here with this one. The really cool thing about these is they also have this extra little nub there at the end. You're not meant to cut that off, so don't cut that part off. That's going to plug into the arm just to give you extra stability here in the wrist. So when you're holding those big heavy Buster rifles, the wrist is not going to be weighed down because of that extra little bit inside there. So it's a really nice little addition to help with the stability of the build there. And we also have our clear green beam saber effect parts. The beam saber handles are going to be stored up here in the shoulders. I'm going to pop these parts up, and there's the handle right inside there. Yeah, you can just get that out of there, and that's just going to be held in your holding hands. So simple enough, just a little bit tricky to get in and out of there if you have large hands like me. Next up then, of course, is our shield. You have a nice clear green part there at the front. At the front, you do also have these yellow wings that are geared, so they will open together. When you open one side, it automatically opens the other. So the nice thing about that is that they're always going to stay symmetrical as well. So that's good. It's not like if they weren't, you might pull out one side and you might forget to close the other side, or you might accidentally close the other side, whatever. That's not going to be an issue with this. Now, you do also have tabs here on the side that will fold out. That's for the transformation, to be able to attach the Buster rifles into the side of this as it's kind of flying along. There is also our arm connection part right here on the back, and otherwise just some really nice detail there on the back side, and the front looks really good as well. So I do really like the look of the shield. And the shield does also have the extending gimmick here like that, which works really nicely as well. And then, of course, our twin Buster rifles. Now, these are going to be asymmetrical so that they can fit together and just be one twin Buster rifle, or of course you can have them separated like that. The handles then of course will fold up for when they're connected, or for when you have it transformed. But the other cool feature that these have is that they can also extend out like that. Now, it's not a huge extension, but a little bit there, just again for when those are in use. So a cool little gimmick to be added to these. Again, really like the look and detail of these. They look nice with that yellow part there. You don't have any seam lines to worry about, so that's good. It's going to be a very easy kit to paint just due to the lack of seam lines that it has, which you would hope for and you would expect for a nice modern real grade, but they definitely delivered on that point. And that's it for our accessories. Everything that you would really expect it to include. Would have been nice to include a stand as well. As you saw a moment ago, it can actually stand on its own even with these big backpack parts, but as soon as you kind of have them a little bit more towards the back, you're going to have trouble standing up, which is expected. So I would recommend getting a base for this, just because, especially for this Gundam, I mean, you're going to want this on a base anyway, just for the poses and things that it can do. You can, of course, pose it standing if you wanted to have it posing with the beam saber, for example, in like a sword fighting pose with your Epyon kit, recreating the scene from the anime, you could do that. But most people, I think, are going to want this up on a stand, so just get a stand for it. Other gimmicks include the cockpit hatch opening down here. There's not really going to be much inside there to see, but it does open. And I didn't put any of the stickers on this yet, but just wanted to point out about the clear green parts, because the clear green part in the chest there, especially the circle one, does look really nice because you have that silver part and behind it. The silver part is also behind these little vents in the side there, which are also clear green, but just because it's a smaller space, that's not going to be as visible. And then in the head as well, just it's a clear green part that you have for the eyes and the head cameras and everything, even for the head camera on the back, but just with it being clear green set inside the parts of the head there's nothing really to light it up, so I would either recommend getting the stickers or getting like a nice metallic green marker to paint those, just because the clear green not going to be necessarily very visible. It's not going to catch the light much. So, and then here in the top of the torso, you can open up this part right here, flip out the little Gatling gun inside there. It's kind of folded up inside. That folds out like so, then close this back on that like that, and looks really cool. Aside from the cockpit opening, these little bits here also open up on the front of the chest, which is kind of cool little gimmick. You can see some cool detail there in yellow up inside. The shoulders also open. Aside from the shoulder opening there, as I showed you for the beam saber handles, these parts here also open up. And of course, you got that thruster inside, and just some nice detail, nice color separation. And again, no seam lines to worry about here on these shoulder parts, which is awesome. Even that red part there, that's all good. You will have a little bit of a mold line there on the front of the forearm, as you can see. Just sand that away and you'll be all good there. As for plugging this onto an action base, you have two different options here on the back. They're both hidden. So on the center of the backpack, if we move these thruster bells up, it's kind of easier to get to. You can lift up this little hatch there, and there's a hard point for plugging your action base adapter into the backpack. Or if you want to plug it onto the back of the skirt, same thing. Just open up this part right here and you can plug the connection for the action base into the back skirt. I think into the backpack is usually a pretty good bet. But yeah, if you wanted to have the action base plugged in up underneath the waist section, there's no hard point there and no adapter piece or anything for that. So if you wanted to have an action base hooked up underneath there, you'd have to use like one of these pieces like this up in there, and you don't really want to use that. So yeah, other than that, you may have noticed that this little green part here at the front also fell out. That's not the first time that that's done that. It happened a few times while putting this kit together, and I expect it will happen a few more times later. So just be very careful not to lose that part. I mentioned this during the live stream build of this, that when removing the nubs from clear parts like that, and especially for like the MGSD clear eye parts as well, I found it to be kind of the same thing. When removing the nubs, don't remove the nub perfectly. Relieve just like the tiniest little bit of nub on there, just because that might actually help the stability of keeping the clear part in there and not popping out, having that little bit of extra plastic friction in there. And I'm talking like the littlest of bits, because if you leave too much, obviously it's not going to fit and it's going to look weird or something like that. But if you leave just the littlest bit of nub on there, it actually probably will help keep that in place a little bit more. I wish that there was a little bit better way to keep that in there, but ultimately probably will end up gluing that. Otherwise, as for the articulation of the kit, it's everything that you would expect for a nice modern, a real grade. You have double joints at the knees and elbows. You have a really nice bend at the hip section. In our knee joint, when we bend this, you get a really nice separation of that knee armor at the front. Also, you'll notice the kind of separation of the whole like lower leg here. That's kind of back part separates a bit there, and the whole like back of the leg kind of shifts down just to get that out of the way, so you can get a nice full knee bend, which is pretty cool. It's also kind of part of the transformation. This whole leg kind of opens up and the foot is going to tuck up inside there. But before we get to that, just a bit about the backpack, because these backpack parts are really nice, much larger than what we had on the HG, and I'm not sure which one is actually more canonically correct in terms of like accurate to the TV show, but I do really like this larger size for these backpack parts. So this will move in and out. You have a rotation point there as well, and then you can, of course, lift them. So all the articulation you could want, and then, of course, opening these up, they're going to look super cool inside, so they can open up like that. And then we've got our gimmick of the like flaps around this thruster bell opening. So there's a little like trigger piece up here that when you rotate that, these are going to open up. It's actually on both sides, so I'm going to try to do it from the back so you guys can see this good. But when we twist that part, it automatically twists everything and opens up like that. Let me show it to you again. I'm sure you guys maybe seen this already, but that's really cool how that works. And it's really simple. Like I said, I expected this part of the construction to be a little bit more complex, a little bit more complex than normal, and it may have slowed the building process down significantly just to like figure out how this goes together. But no, it's really simple, really straightforward. and it works really nicely and looks super cool. And now I'm not going to show you every step of the transformation just because most of it's not too interesting, but the legs in particular I did want to show you for the transformation, how this is going to work. So I'm going to start off just by bending the knee here like so. And like the front half of the knee joint actually opens up like that, and then the back half also you're going to open up like so. We're going to then bring the lower leg back up and bent in front of the thigh here, kind of as you normally would, but because of that, just get this skirt armor a little bit out of the way there. Because of the way that that knee joint opens up like that, it's a little different in this case. And then we're going to open up this even further there at the back. And inside the back of the leg here, this little part is going to slide down there like that. Going to rotate the foot around 180 degrees. And the foot is going to fold up inside there, and you should have a separation of this bit here at the end and the back of the foot. So the back of the foot basically like opens up to expose that thruster bell that's kind of hidden inside the back of the foot there. We fold that up into there, and you can see that right there. Then this closes up on top of that with a little tab that plugs into that hole in the bottom of the foot right there when this meets up there, just like that. And so yeah, there you go. There's the transformation of the leg. A little bit more complex than what we've seen in previous versions. And like I said, this is another aspect that I expected during the building of this was going to be something that was going to slow down the building process, but ultimately it was simple enough, and so it works really well. As well, I'm glad that they put some nice extra effort into the transformation to really make it as smooth and interesting as possible. Personally, not a huge fan of the transformation into bird mode here for this particular Gundam, but here's how that looks, and I'm just going to keep it in mobile suit form for myself. But I think there's a lot of really great stuff that you can do with this. The weapons and accessories are essentially kind of the normal, beam saber, beam rifle, shield combination, but with the beam rifle, of course, being able to split into two twin buster rifles. I think it's a nice twist on the kind of typical Gundam accessories that you have for this one, and just the design is really cool. The look of this one is fantastic. The kit looks perfect, and as a fan of this design, I'm really happy with how this kit looks, and it can really well recreate all the classic iconic poses from the anime and everything and more. There's just kind of, you're not really limited at all in terms of the posing of this. The articulation is such that you can really do just kind of anything that you would want, which you would expect from a nice new real grade like this. So it definitely does not disappoint in any way. It lives up to all my expectations and even exceeds them, I would say, just in terms of the looks and the articulation. Everything of this is just really nice. While the Proto Zero is really nice, I do hope that someday we will get a nice new master grade version of this design. Would be great. I would love that. But for the time being, definitely happy with this RG and really looking forward to painting it. I mentioned this during the live stream that I'm not sure if I have time at the moment just because I have a lot of other stuff that's on the bench, but if and when I'm able to get in a little bit of time to paint up this kit, I'm really looking forward to it just because I mentioned earlier that the lack of seam lines and just the way that the kit is constructed, it's going to be a pretty simple kit to paint. I mean, if you're not planning on doing any modification at all to it, really, pretty much just, take it apart, paint all the parts, put it back together, and it's really kind of going to be as simple as that. So if you wanted an RG kit that was definitely one of the easier ones to paint, I would say this is it. Then again, I think all of the kind of more modern real grades have been that way. They're definitely fun and easy enough kits to paint, so they're great for that if you don't mind the small parts. And this one actually didn't have a whole lot of like really teeny tiny parts. There's always a few in there, but there's not like a ton of that with this kit. So definitely highly recommend it, guys. Check it out on USA Gundam Store. The link to USA Gundam Store will be down in the video description below. As always, thanks so much for all of your support. I hope you enjoyed the review today, taking a look at this kit. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comment section below. And as always, thanks so much for all of your support. See y'all in the next video. Later, guys.